I would always say, like, I just want to leave the field with one thing a day, whether it's how they tie their cleats. It might be something they do in the cages. It might be a look they have in their eyes.
Devin, excited to have you on the FITTEAM show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Look forward to getting to know you a little bit better, hear your story.
No doubt. It'll be fun.
Awesome. So take us back to tell us a little bit about where you grew up and some hobbies you had as a kid.
Yeah, I grew up here in Palm Beach County. Grew up in Boynton Beach. Baseball was always my dream. My mother's sister was dating a baseball player for the Braves back when they had spring training here, and luckily my mom worked a busy job and my aunt didn't really work too much, and she took me to a ton of spring training games. So that's kind of where my love for baseball started. I was at the baseball field, basically every day during spring training, and I always wanted to have a baseball in my hand. So
how old were you when you started?
So I believe my aunt told me, well, when I started playing baseball, I was four. Four? Yeah, we played over at Wells on 45th Street, or what is that? No, it might be Blue Heron, but yeah, that's where it all started for me. And my older brother, I used to put on his uniform, and he's 10 years older than me, so you can only imagine what that uniform looked like on a little kid. And I just love baseball.
So when did you feel like you were advanced and better than other people?
I'd say it was early on. I guess you could say I realized that I was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
My dad growing up was pretty tough, so being good was never allowed to be talked out loud. So almost in my mind, I would always trick myself that I wasn't that good because I always needed to be better no matter what. But I would say that I started to process it probably around 9-10 years old, that the game of baseball came to me maybe a little bit easier than a lot of the other guys I played against.
So what came next after that? You started knowing you're a little more advanced. You started doing some travel ball and get a little more serious about it?
Yeah. I would finish baseball games, and if I didn't get a hit or I didn't play up to my dad's standards, there was no asking if my buddies could come over after the game, or if I could go to my buddy's house, or if I could go outside and play hide and seek, or go play street ball around the corner. I would take swings based on my performance. And that's when I realized that my dad wasn't playing. He saw something in me that as a young kid you don't really realize, and I just followed his lead. And there were a lot of times that as a kid I wanted to take my anger out on my dad, but now that I've grown up and have got to taste a little bit of success at the higher level, I look back at it and I'm very thankful for all those times.
Mm-hmm. So tell me what it was like playing high school ball.
Oof, that was good. Coach Benedict at Palm Beach Central, I still say to this day he's the best coach I've ever had in my life.
Oh.
He's taught me so much about the game that as I have continued to grow, baseball is a game that you never stop learning, but I feel like the foundation that he laid in me, everything I've learned has kind of piggybacked off what he's taught me, not just learning something completely new. Obviously, you learn as the game evolves, little tips and tricks from guys that I've played with that maybe do things that's very special, but the foundation that I learned from him was quite instrumental in my career. And anytime I get a chance to send him a text or see him, I try to thank him for everything.
That's awesome. What's some things that make him different?
Well, he's tough.
Which
and he's a lot like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say coaches nowadays really aren't as tough as they used to be. But he was very attention to detail, to the point where I would probably get yelled at almost every ground ball that was hit to me. And I would look and I'd be like, I haven't missed a ball in 100 ground balls, and you guys have yelled at me every play. I bet you tell me good job. And what I have learned is when your coach is hard on you like that, it's because he expects so much out of you. And
that's right.
That feeling of being told good job reminds me a lot of my dad. It's never a good job. It's, hey, you did your job, but you can be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that Coach Benedict at 14 years old when I started high school and playing on varsity as a freshman and looking up, and I'm a kid and there's 17, 18-year-olds on the team, and granted they're kids, but 14 to 18 was such a huge jump. And the mental part of the game and those little details are what makes the 14-year-old able to hang with the 18-year-old, because physically the difference is so strong.
Mm-hmm. So what was next after high school?
Yeah, I went to Florida State. Best decision I made in my life. Yeah, I'm probably one of the bigger lovers of Florida State. I like to believe just the time of my life. I was lucky enough to play for another great coach there, legend, and Mike Martin. And yeah, I had a couple schools to choose from. I was LSU and UCF for the other two schools. Loved LSU. I'm a mama's boy. I wasn't leaving too far. And UCF, just Florida State sounded a little bit better to me. But yeah, that was the time of my life. Got to play in the College World Series as a freshman. Lost in the game to go to the College World Series as a sophomore, and then went back as a junior. Never got to bring a national championship home to Florida State, which has never been done. It's probably the only thing I look back on and I'm a little upset about. But FSU was a great time, and my little brother being there now, I get to go back and kind of relive that last year of college that I skipped out on. So yeah, I love it up there.
Outside of playing in college, what'd you do to just kind of stay focused? Because obviously there's a lot of distractions in college. You probably had a lot of fun, but what'd you do to stay just focused on where you were going?
Yeah, it's tough, especially up there. My freshman year, I did a really good job. I never had a sip of alcohol until I was 20 years old, and my sophomore year, I'm sitting in Gainesville, and not the most fun places to be. I can say that proudly because I'm a Knoll. But yeah, I was there for about 5 days during the summer, and I needed something to help me have a little bit of fun, and so I learned a little bit. But my first year it was quite easy because I was still so attached to the game that I almost never knew how to separate it. And I think that's an important thing for young athletes, and that transition from high school to college can almost be, you can see it veer off in a crazy way. So I'm thankful that it was a little slower for me. But you have to be able to realize that baseball is baseball, and school is school, and your family is your family, and baseball's over here, but this is real life. And so I figured out a way to detach from the game a little bit and have a little bit of fun, but it's definitely tough. And thankfully I had parents who were on me pretty hard from afar, and I'm still scared of my dad, so I think that helped me out a little bit. And yeah, it was tough, but somehow found a way to get it done.
So when was it that you were thinking about the league? Was it early in college? Was it late in high school? Was it late in college?
I think that I never really looked far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, I always tried staying in the now. Mm-hmm. I've always dreamt of being a professional baseball player. I mean, from the time I was a kid, where I began praying, I would always pray at night. I remember every prayer ended with I just want to be a professional baseball player. I lived for it. I think that it never became real truly until I walked into the office in 2015 in spring training, where I just got traded from the Tigers, and I just finished my AA season. I just turned 24 years old a couple weeks earlier, and they told me that I had made the team and I'd be there for opening day in New York. And I think even then a little bit, it never really hit me until I stepped on the field on opening day, and I realized that this is Yankee Stadium. This is what I've always dreamt of, and I'm living it. But the big leagues, I don't really think I ever felt it until I actually put on that uniform and stepped out on that field.
How was that first day? Who'd you call? Who'd you talk to? How were you feeling?
So I wanted to, as it was getting, as we were getting closer, I was starting to figure out that I had a chance to make the team, and everything was lining up as if I was going to make it. So I kind of prepared in my mind, like, man, I don't want to tell like my mom or my dad first. I want to tell them like at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, they didn't have group FaceTime, unfortunately. So I did it by, I sent a group text to my mom and my dad, and I just said, like, thank you for everything, and I was just told that my dream's gonna come true, our dream's gonna come true. So it was it's a special day. It's a day I'll never forget. Opening day, I forget a little bit because I was so nervous that it was kind of all a blur. But yeah, that day was a really special one for us.
So it's awesome to accomplish that. Talk about some of the hardest experiences or toughest experiences to get to that point.
There's so many. Baseball being a game of failure, I think, is the number one hardest thing to deal with, because you're praised off of, and you're considered good based off of so much failure. I think that's the hard part. Is when you're younger and you're in high school, you can hit 500, and 50% sounds a lot better than 30%, and even then you still get upset. But I think as you get to college and you start to face better talent, that failure is hard to deal with, and you got to do it every day. You don't have a week between, or 3 days, or even 2 days most of the time to kind of flush it out. And that can obviously be tough sometimes. I'm sure football players would like to, after a bad game, they'd like to play again right in a couple hours. But that everyday grind of dealing with the failure and wanting to succeed so bad, and having to settle with 1 for 5 sometimes being your best day, I think that's the first part that's toughest about baseball. But I think outside of that, it's controlling, like I was saying, the outside part of baseball, because as baseball players, you're so caught up in the game that you forget sometimes that there's real life outside of baseball. So I would say that's a tough part too. You got to find a way to to narrow your focus, and at the same time as you're narrowing that focus, understanding that baseball is just baseball, and your outside life is still normal life.
Obviously, you've accomplished a tremendous amount. What's some of the things you're most proud of?
I would say, truly, I was actually just talking the other day to one of my friends, and I said, I've never looked back at anything I've done so far and really got to appreciate it. And I think that's because as an athlete, you always want so much more, and nothing's ever good enough. I mean, I'm sure you could ask, guys who have won multiple MVPs, guys like Tom Brady, 6 championships, and he'll tell you 6 is great, but I want 7 now. Or guys who have won 3 MVPs, yeah, I've won 3, but man, I want to get to 5, whoever maybe got to 5. So to say what I'm most proud of, I feel like I have so much more, especially with kind of the way my career has gone with injuries. I have so much more that I want, that I haven't really been able to be proud of so much that I've done per se. I would say I'm just more thankful than anything for my parents, and I realize how lucky I was as a kid to have a mother and a father there to push me every day, and to show me that bringing home a B on your report card's not okay just because you had 5 other A's. That you need to strive to be the best you can in everything you do, and I'm just really thankful for my parents, and I'm happy for my parents, the work that they put in to be able to give back to them a little bit, and to show them all their hard work with a little bit of me too. But I want my parents to know that I'm so thankful for them pushing me, because without them it would have been easy to not take those extra 100 swings, or be okay with the 2 for 4 games when I'm 12 years old. And they just showed me that you got to continue to want to be better.
What's some goals that you have moving forward?
I'd say my first goal is just to get back healthy again. I've had a hard time staying healthy. For me, that's been the toughest part for my professional career, has been staying healthy. So I'd say my immediate goal would be to get back healthy, and my next goal would be to sign that next contract again with the team and put on that uniform again, and to be able to experience that feeling of suiting up every day. It's something that we take for granted. I'm sure it's in all facets of life, but as an athlete, putting on that uniform every day, you don't realize, how fast it really does go. And I think when it gets taken away from you for a little bit, you have the opportunity to look and say, dang, I'd rather be 0 for 100 right now going out there for my 20th straight game, and I'd rather be miserable because I'm stinking than to be able to sit here and not have that feeling. So my next goal would be to get back out there on the field and get back to the big leagues where I believe I have a lot more time left in me, and that would probably make everything a little sweeter, and I'd be able to tell you a little bit more about what I'm proud of for sure.
Awesome. You mentioned your parents, your dad, your parents. Who else has had an impact on you? You've mentioned coaches. Is there anyone else that you haven't mentioned or you want to expand on that helped you become who you are today?
I mean, your family, your friends that you surround yourself with is very important. I'm very thankful for them. The guys that I've played with, I think as an athlete, when you watch your peers, you almost look up to them in a sense where they don't even know. You try to take something with you every single day. My biggest thing is being a young guy and 15 in a clubhouse full of older guys that have had proven success. I would always say, I just want to leave the field with one thing a day, whether it's how they tie their cleats. It might be something they do in the cages. It might be a look they have in their eyes. But I would try to leave the field every day with one thing. And if I could stockpile that for 162 games, I would be leaving, feeling like I had a pretty successful year no matter how my results turned out. So I looked up to a lot of guys. I mean, for me, a big one early on was Jose Batista. Josh Donaldson I learned in a different way because he had a look in his eyes that you can't really explain, you can't imitate. The list would go on, but my coaches, I mentioned Coach B, Coach Martin, my big league manager, I looked up to him. I still do, based on how managers have to take the fall for 25 guys, and so most of the time it's completely out of their control, but they take that fall for us. So there's a lot of people I could thank, and the list can go on, and I'd probably forget a million other people. But the journey to get to the top is tough, and doing it alone is basically impossible. So the people that you have supporting you and the people you have lifting you up really is probably one of the most important parts of of that entire journey.
You mentioned looking up to some people. Obviously, a lot of people look up to you and what you've accomplished. How does that feel, just in general, to be a role model for so many people?
Yeah, that's the coolest part. And the game of baseball and being a professional athlete, we have this platform to be able to build off of. And when you're done playing, I think the thing that I see with guys when I talk to them is, they want to give back. And really, when you're done with this game, everything that comes along with it, the glory, the attention, all the other cool stuff, that stuff kind of burns off. But the impact that you're able to leave on maybe the one kid or the one team, or simply signing a baseball or responding to a message on Instagram, realizing the impact that you can have on kids, because I was once that kid that just wanted the guy just to look at me, and I would go tell my friends how Louis Castillo signed that ball for me the one day. Those are the moments that kids hold on to forever. So having that opportunity to give back to these kids and provide that little bit of hope that they can live that dream one day, I think is the coolest part about it.
For someone that's getting started and they're serious about going to the next level or going to the league, what advice do you have for them? Something they're probably not hearing, but the discipline it takes, or what's something you could share with them that you'd highly recommend that they do?
I'd say to just love the game and do it because you love it. Don't do it for the money that may come or the fame that may come, all that's great, and it's nice. It's a part of that success. But the game of baseball, like I said, is so full of failure that if you're chasing something that's so concrete, it burns off, because you need something to steer you to keep going when you aren't having the success you want to have. So I would just always say, like, the new message in baseball now is let the kids play. Let us have fun. Let us do what we want to do. The bat flips, the pimping homers, whatever you got to do to enjoy the game, to show how much you're enjoying this game. It's most important, because that other stuff, it'll be there and it goes away, but your love for the game and enjoying what you do every day is what will allow you to wake up every day and want to go in when you're 0 for 20 or your team is on a 6-game skid. So just playing for the love you had as a kid, I guess, would be my best message.
You've been around a lot of super successful athletes. What do you think it is that separates, like, some that are just, the good from great, the bunch? What do you think is? You mentioned always wanting more, but is there anything else that you've identified that you saw that separates?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's got like a little bit different stuff, on what makes them tick. But I would say that the most successful and the one common thing I have found in the successful ones, the really good ones, how they prepare. Like, they find a routine, and it takes time to find a routine. And to be quite honest, I don't think I ever found my routine as a professional still. Like, I'm still in the process of learning your routine. But the good ones have a routine, and they do the same thing every day, and they're the same person every day, and they're not ever driven off track based on results. Now, they may be more frustrated at times than others, but the work that they put in every day is the exact same, and they always know what they need to be successful. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of being a professional, is knowing what you need to do every day to get yourself ready. But the good ones have that, and there's so many ways that guys would do things, and some would be the complete opposite. Like, some guys want BP every day, and they're going to hit BP every day, and some guys will say, hey, if I don't feel good today, or if I'm struggling, I'm not even picking up a bat. I'll pick up a bat for the game. But knowing what you need as an athlete to get yourself ready every single day is the one thing that I've seen that the guys that are most successful have.
What's something that you haven't shared that you'd like people to know about you?
I enjoy watching football way more than I enjoy watching baseball. I'd say I loved baseball as a kid growing up. It was my love, but maybe because my dad never let me do it, I always wanted to be a football player. And I used to beg my dad, like, Dad, please, I just want to play football. Like, I was, fast and small, and I'm like, man, I could wiggle through them holes. Like, I feel like those big guys couldn't catch me. And my dad would always say, hey, like, you're not playing football. Like, I played football. My dad played football at Syracuse, and you're not playing football. Like, you're going to be a baseball player. And I'm like, Dad, like, I just want to play football. Like, I want to put on those pads, the helmet. Like, I want to get pumped up for a game. It's the one thing about baseball that I wish was different, was the theater that comes with football, that pumped up music and screaming. Like, yeah, that's what burns inside of me for baseball games. But it's a different game, and you got to do it every day, and you can't sustain it. But I would say I've always been a little bit bitter. The one thing people would know, I've always been a little bitter and jealous of my younger brother, who's a football player, because he, at 8 years old, told my dad, I was 15 begging him to play, and he told my dad at 8 years old, hey, Dad, like, I'm done with baseball. I'm playing football. And my dad was like, okay. And I think that's one thing that it's always chapped me a little bit inside, was my brother being able to play football and my dad not letting me.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Don't tell him I said it.
It's a great story. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story, and look forward to seeing you around.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for having us. That was fun.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.